the advantage of that is I will upload it to YouTube. I will, if a movie is on YouTube, you know, most of them you can get a transcript, so you can get a transcript of my whole presentation today because it's gonna be on YouTube, okay? So thank you for volunteering. All right, so you bring a video, your speech is gonna be recorded, you're going to have that to watch your speech and give yourself feedback, and there's a form for it, that's your speech evaluation assignment that's gonna be due the following week. And this is the basic outline, but this is like, you're gonna actually write out what you're gonna say here. You're gonna actually write out what your thesis is. And oh, you know what, I'm gonna put in preview because today we're covering preview. Usually I do the speech before the outlining assignment, so there's no preview, but today there will be a preview, so I'll change this. So there'll be a preview here. Then you have your main points and your sub-points. And like the one I just said with the diamond would have had 3 main points, so you would just repeat this 3 times, all right? And I'm gonna show you a sample of an outline later so you see what that looks like. And then you're gonna have a summary of the main points and a memorable closing statement. Yes?
Where is this?
It's, if you go to where it says the partner intro metaphor speech, it's in next week's module, and it's near the top, yeah.
We only have up to module 4.
Oh, I'm sorry, let me light it up for you. Oh, wow, this isn't lit up? Are you kidding me? Was this not published, this one?
I think it was.
Did they? Okay, well, you kept up with the readings anyway. So today's has got a lot of stuff on it. And so this I'm gonna talk about later, this optional service project. And then here it is under, oh, see, it's not lit up. Okay, I'm sorry. There you go. It's all lit up now. So there it is, partner introduction with metaphors. So that's where you find it, all right? So that's what the assignment is. What I'm gonna do now is I am going to talk about outlining, because you need that, right? You need that for this speech. And then what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna show you a student speech, and you're going to, it's on YouTube, so you can look at the transcript of it, and then you're going to outline that speech that I show you, and you're gonna find the strengths and the weaknesses, because it's not a perfect speech. It's a pretty good speech for a first speech for class, but it's not perfect, okay? So that's what we're gonna do for the first hour, the first half of class, right, till 1:15. All right, so we don't need the agenda now, do we? I don't know if I saved this. Did I save it? Save to this PC, to the desktop. Okay, so it's saved, so I can get rid of this agenda in case we need it later. All right, so the first presentation is on the outlining. Oh, that's what I was trying to download before, and it wasn't coming down. There it is. Come on, download. All right. Oh, it says it's here already. Well, okay. Well, where are you then? It says it's downloaded, but I don't see it. Oh, you know what? It's probably in downloads, that's why. Which, I don't know where downloads are on this PC. And that desktop, we want it there. Okay. Alright, now I should be able to. Nope, I don't want that. I want the actual PowerPoint. Oh, it says a PDF. It's only giving me the PDF. All right, I'm sorry. I wanted to have the PowerPoint, but it's just giving PDF. Okay, so today's talk is on outlining. I want to start with a story. There were 2 students of mine in a public speaking class, and they were actually in 2 different sections of my public speaking. In the one class, the student did a speech about slavery in the chocolate industry, which was very shocking to a lot of us, but 70% of the chocolate that is produced it involves slavery, involves children who are slaves and are tricked and kidnapped and sometimes just given over to these cocoa plantations, and they get exploited. So it's truly horrible. So the student who gave that speech, he had a great introduction, and his speech was super organized, and he got the people involved, and he got this like round of applause like you wouldn't believe, and everybody was convinced that they ought to boycott slave-connected chocolate, which is easy to detect if you know how to do that, right? The other student did it on the same topic, and the reason they both did the same topic is because on campus there was a teach-in about this, and they had both gone to the teach-in, so it really excited them, interested them, and they did it for their persuasive speech. So the other student started out not as good an introduction, but the parts of her speech, they just weren't as well organized. So she, instead of really focusing on the problems with the slavery in the chocolate, she started talking about everything wrong with Nestle's chocolate, at Nestle's company, not just the chocolate, and started talking about other things. So she was so unfocused. So she got kind of tepid applause, and people were not persuaded by her speech. Because when you do your persuasive speech, I have people rate how persuaded they are, okay? So the point of the story is that the organization of the speech really makes a difference. And if you're not well organized, you lower your credibility, you make it harder for people to follow your point, and you're usually not successful both in informing people and also in persuading people, right? So outlining is so important. It's one of the most important skills you can ever learn for public speaking. The good news is you already have these skills, because if you had to write papers, which I assume you had to do to get into college, you already know how to organize. And you probably have heard before the concepts of the three-part speech, which are the introduction, the body, and the conclusion. And one of the ways that people in the communication discipline like to frame it is to say, tell them what you're going to tell them what you told them, and then, first tell them what you're going to tell them, and then tell them what you told them, right? So intro, body, conclusion. So those parts are just so important, okay? So who can tell us what strategy means? Anybody? Strategy. What's strategy mean? Anybody play sport? Somebody wants to play a sport. Come on, nobody played a sport.
Where you carry out your plan?
A plan, right? It's a plan for what you're going to do, okay? So this is the chalkboard for soccer, okay? And the X's are one team and the O's are the other team, and this is a whole plan for how you're going to execute your moves on the soccer field. And some of you might have had that for basketball, and football definitely uses it, and so on. A lot of team sports do this, right? So that's a plan, right? So your outline is your plan. It's your strategy, okay? So I have it highlighted in green, all right? So you have your general purpose, your specific purpose, and your central idea, which is also called the thesis, okay? Remember that, because it's one of the questions on the exam. So if you write that down, you're going to get one of the exam questions correct, okay? The central idea is the same thing as a thesis, okay? So your main points consist of claims, okay? And your central idea is a claim. So a claim is a proposition of what you believe to be true, and it needs to be written as a sentence and not a question. So you don't start out your speech and say, what do we know about this person that I'm about to introduce, right? You want to say, this person is a diamond, this person is a mountain, this person is an eagle, right? Whatever your metaphor is, right? You want to make a claim. You don't want to ask a question like, is this person a diamond? All right, that's not what you want to do for your thesis statement, okay? So a claim is something you believe to be true, all right? So for your speeches, you're going to be required to do something called a preparation outline. And that's a full sentence outline that has everything written in full sentences, and everything is just, each sentence is on one unit of the outline, which is either a Roman numeral, a Latin numeral, or a number, or numbers, okay, so, okay, I mean letters. All right, so the preparation outline has to be written out in great detail, okay? So the contents of your preparation outline, you have the title, you have the specific purpose of your speech, which in this case is going to be to introduce and inform my classmates about X, whoever that person is, okay? And then your central idea, which you're gonna put into the form of a metaphor. And then you're gonna have your introduction. We're gonna talk about introductions in the second hour. Then we have your main points and subpoints that support those main points. And then connectives are statements that connect the different parts of your speech, all right? And then your conclusion. Now, if you're doing research, you would have a bibliography. In this case, you don't have to do a bibliography, but actually if you interviewed somebody, you could cite that you did this in a personal interview, but you're not gonna be required to do that for this speech, okay? So the preparation outline guidelines are that you must state the specific purpose, you must identify the central idea, and you have to label the intro, the body, and the conclusion. Some more guidelines, okay? You're gonna use a consistent pattern of symbolization and indentation, and you're gonna state the main points, the subpoints, all in full sentences. Now, that is the preparation outline. Now, there's another type of outline called, okay, I'm sorry, I have to finish the preparation outline. So the guidelines, additional guidelines, I'm sorry. Additional guidelines are to label the transitions, the internal, which can be internal summaries or internal previews, and then attach your bibliography and provide a title for your presentation, okay? Now, the visual framework is the symbolization and the indentation that show relationships amongst ideas. So what do I mean by that? Let me draw on the board what I mean by that. Okay. And again, you probably did this in high school, but it's not everyone had to do it, but I'm going to show you here. Okay. So these little called the prefixes are the symbols, okay? And you have main point one, then you have, this will be the introduction, okay? Okay, then you have the body, okay, and you have main point A. Let's say we had, well, this one I showed you, we did 3 main points, okay? And then we have the subpoints. Okay, and then we have the conclusion. So Roman numerals, Latin letters, then Latin numbers, okay, back to another Roman numeral, right? So sometimes you'll have even more details, and so you would have A, and you have 1, and then 1 has 2 parts like that, one AB, and there's 2, that would be also an AB, right? So are you familiar with that? You've seen that before? You've done that before, maybe high school? Sometimes people, there's teachers that have you do it for your papers, and this is how we do it for speeches. So the indentation, every time you have a different outline unit, you always, okay, these ones are going to be the furthest to the left, right? So these you do not have to indent, okay? No indentation over here, but the rest of them need to be indented, and then the indentation is always consistent, okay? And so here you have some even more indentation like here, okay? So I know that sometimes when I try to do it on Microsoft Word, it tries to do it automatically, and I don't want their settings our settings are different than Microsoft Word, so you need to like double check and make sure it's doing it correctly. Don't let it take you to what they want to do, all right? Because they want to do it different on Microsoft Word than what we're telling you to do. And this, I can tell you that practically every teacher in the United States that teaches public speaking in a communication studies department, this is what they teach you to do, all right? And the reason for it is that an outline is the outward representation of the organization in your brain, and creating it actually helps to organize your brain and helps you to remember that information when you have to get up here and talk. So doing this is an exercise that facilitates you being able to speak about it later. Okay? Any questions about that? What that involves? Okay, very good. Okay. So the visual framework, so I showed you that on the board, a little more detail, okay? The bibliography is your list of sources. So we're gonna use APA, which is American Psychological Association, and I will show you that in more detail when you have to do research for your speech, which is gonna be for two more speeches. You don't have to do research unless you want to. It's optional. And then the speaking outline is different than the preparation outline. So this is what you have to submit onto Canvas before your speech starts to show you did your preparation. For the actual speech, you make what's called the speaking outline. And the speaking outline doesn't, it doesn't, sorry, that's, the speaking outline, this is the correct slide here. The speaking outline still uses a visual framework of a preparation outline. It's legible and it's brief and it includes delivery cues, okay? Now, I use PowerPoint for my speaking outline. So you see it's brief. It's not in full sentences. It's just words, keywords that help me remember what I want to talk about. And it's visual, so it helps me remember what it is, helps me stay on target. So if you want to use PowerPoint slides for your speeches, you're welcome to. And for shorter speeches, students typically use no cards, so they can just stand in front of their audience and then just look at a keyword and remember what they're going to say, and then make eye contact and do that. And some people use the cards even when they're using PowerPoint to kind of help them, guide them. But because we have a nice setup in here, with this computer nice and erect on a high platform instead of down here like it used to be, right? It's up here. You can actually stand here and look at your slides, just glance at your slides and then make eye contact with the audience, which is your ideal. So I'm so happy they gave us one of these platforms instead of the desks like they had before, okay? So you want to have it, it's like the visual framework kind of shows you how it's organized, right? So that is what you call a visual framework. But PowerPoint is another type of visual framework, okay? So you want your speaking outline to be very legible. Before PowerPoint, I used to just use one of those legal size pads, and I would just write in capital letters. I would write out my keywords onto that and make it big, like 2 spaces instead of 1 space, so I could read it. So you want it to be like that. I know that students want to just use their cell phone. And the problem with the cell phone is that the writing is tiny and you're just kind of like this trying to read it. And it's harder to maintain your eye contact. So really for speeches, it's better if you don't read off of your cell phone and use some note cards or use PowerPoint slides or even posters. Some people like to use posters, okay? So that it should be brief and it can include your delivery cue. So if you were doing a demonstration speech and you wanted to say teach a dance step, and you might put in your intro, okay, do that dance step, and you'll remember to do your dance step, okay? So that's a delivery cue. It tells you what to do, okay? Or it could say, tell everyone to raise their hands. Whatever it is you want people to do, you could put a delivery cue, something to do that's not the actual words of what you're saying, okay? Now, like I just said, the delivery cue is just some directions that tell you what to do for your delivery part of your speech, okay? So that's all I want to say about outlining, unless you have any questions, because now I want to show you a speech, a metaphor partner speech, and I want you to then to create the outline for it, and you can look at the transcript on YouTube to see the actual content and then arrange it into one of these, okay? Now, I'll give you a hint, okay? I don't think her organization is as tight as it should be. So one thing about these is that one way you can check to see if your organization is tight is that each point that's below one of the other units, right? So these subpoints 1, 2, and 3 should directly relate to A. If they don't relate to the claim that you have an A, then they don't belong there, they belong somewhere else. And if you end up with just sticking stuff in because you want to include it, but it doesn't actually support the point, then you really need to eliminate it. You shouldn't put in extraneous stuff. And so that's the problem with the speech I'm going to show you. It has a bunch of sort of extraneous stuff that doesn't really fit very well, okay? And her thesis is not as tight as it could be. But, you know, it's pretty good. And then all of these subpoints, these are sub-subpoints, all these subpoints should directly support what the claim is for your body, which means they should support the thesis that's in your introduction. All right? Okay, so now I'm going to show you the speech, and I want you to just take note of what you think works and what could be improved. So what was effective, what could be improved, and then you're going to be able to work with your partner that you're sitting with today to actually try to outline that speech, okay? So let's go to the speech. It's up here. Okay. Okay. I want to see if we can do this. All right. Yeah, we got the closed captions too, so you could actually take notes. It's not loud enough.
The cord stops. The roots are connected to the cord stop. The cord stops connected to the ear. The ear's connected to the cord cup. It's easy to learn the cord stop. I'm Mary Wallace, and today I will be introducing you to Brett Hillstead, a hard-working farm boy from the small town of Clare City, South Dakota. Brett's life is like a corn stalk. They both started out small, and they sprouted up to be tall and strong. In a way, Brett's family is like a cornfield. They all have the same basic needs, but they vary in a way. Some are sweet, while others are dent or flint. But they all have one thing in common. They're still corn. This is like a family. No matter what, you're always related. Brett's family consists of his dad, mom, and older brother. His dad is a farmer, and his mom just retired from being a teacher's aide, and she is now planning on becoming a substitute teacher. Brett's brother, Eric, just got married this past summer. Sometimes, as a caretaker, there are certain mishaps that you cannot prevent. As a farmer, you can spray your house with pesticides. As a human, you can douse yourself in ghee. Brett's life is like a corn pop. It hasn't always been peaches and cream. His freshman year in high school, he contracted the West Nile virus. As if the worry and the symptoms weren't enough, this prevented him from continuing his sports career. In junior high, he participated in track. He loved the 100 because he could always see the finish line from the starting point. To still stay involved, he became a student manager. Brett is now stronger than ever due to his perseverance and determination, and he is continuing on in his daily activities and chores. Brett's love for hunting and farming is like corn's need for sunlight and water. He now owns about 80 acres of land, and he puts in the long, hard hours of labor. He has 2 yellow labs, and he loves to go hunting with them. Well, there you have it. I present to you Brett Hillstead, the hard-working farm boy. I explained to you how corn life isn't as different from human life, how a cornfield is like togetherness and family, and how diseases and viruses are going to happen in life. With perseverance and determination, you can overcome these obstacles. I know my speech got a little bit corny, but I hope you all enjoyed it.
Okay, so, that's the only one. So if you know this, but see these little 3 dots? You press on this, and that gives you the transcript. So I'm gonna actually grab it. So this is what I do. If I'm taking a class and the teacher's gonna give us tests from videos, include that on the exams, I just do this. I copy this whole thing to study. Make sure I got everything out of it, all the meat out of a presentation, okay? So,
That's horrendous.
all right, there it is. There's a transcript. I'm gonna save it. Oh, it says transcript. Perfect. Okay, there we go. All right, and so I will put it into. I'm gonna put it onto the modules that might make it easier for folks that maybe. I know if you have a cell phone doing what I just did, I don't even know if you can do it. Could you do that on a cell phone? No, I don't think so. Just super cell phone. Okay, so I'll put it on the modules page. Well, first I have to put it up as a file. Okay. Now it's there. Now I can put it into today's module. There we go. Okay, so it's going to be at the bottom of today's module. There you go. All right, so you have that too, all right? So let's see, maybe you work with 4 people, so we have more heads to put together, okay? So we'll have you 4, then you 4, you 4, you 4, everybody ends up here, 4, and 4, and then you come up here with these ones, okay? All right, perfect. All right, so go ahead and try to outline that information that's in that transcript into that form.